Canadian Defense Minister Bill Blair's single remark has sent shockwaves through Washington. The Prime Minister has asked me to examine those issues and consult with other partners, especially where there may be opportunities to assemble those fighter jets right here on Canadian soil. The F-35 deal the Pentagon thought was secured is now hanging by a thread. For the first time in decades, Canada is openly exploring alternatives to an American fighter jet. But why? Why would one of the United States' most reliable allies consider stepping back from a massive $19 billion agreement? Today, we reveal how the Pentagon's pressure tactics backfired and why Ottawa is now leaning towards Swedish or French jets. The deal that was supposed to be untouchable. In 2022, Canada finally ended a decade-long debate and announced it would buy 88 F-35 Lightning II aircraft. The $19 billion contract was the sixth largest F-35 order in the world. For the Pentagon, this wasn't just business, it was a strategic pillar of North American air defense, NORAD. The US goal was simple. If all allies flew the same jets, American dominance in the skies would be unchallenged. But beneath the surface, a fierce tug-of-war was unfolding. Washington's hardball pressure. For years, Washington has cornered Canada, never issuing direct threats but making unmistakable hints. Without the F-35, intelligence sharing could be restricted. Joint defense operations might become complicated. Canada could fall behind key allies. The situation escalated when the Trump administration began referring to Canada as America's 51st state and introduced a wave of punitive tariffs. This bullying attitude deeply insulted Canadians. The Pentagon believed pressure would force Ottawa into compliance, but it produced the opposite outcome. Enter Sweden's Saab, a game-changing proposal. At that exact moment, Swedish aerospace giant Saab stepped forward with its GripenE fighter jet and offered what the US refused to provide: sovereignty. Canada would have full control over the aircraft's software and systems, domestic manufacturing, a facility to build the jets inside Canada. Jobs, an estimated 10,000 new Canadian jobs. Where America offered conditions, Sweden offered respect and self-reliance. The GripenE is also uniquely suited for Canada's harsh climate, capable of taking off from ordinary roads even in extreme cold. Ottawa now faces a defining question. Should Canada remain dependent on the US or build its own capabilities? Pentagon's worst nightmare. The Pentagon now watches helplessly as its closest ally drifts away. If Canada partially or fully steps back from the F-35 deal, it would be one of the biggest failures in US defense diplomacy in modern history. This isn't just lost business, it threatens unity within NATO and weakens America's tight grip over North American air power. Canada's recalibrated defense strategy could shift the balance of power across the entire continent. A recently leaked document has revealed shocking details. In the 2021 trials, the F-35 scored 57.1 out of 60, while the Gripen scored only 19.8. In other words, from a purely technical standpoint, the Gripen is nowhere close to the F-35. So the question is, why is Canada still considering the Gripen? Former Royal Canadian Air Force Lieutenant General Yvon Blondin stated bluntly, if you want to confront the Russians or Chinese in the Arctic, you want the F-35. But when your neighboring country, the United States, tries to impose software kill switches or maintenance control on you, then even an aircraft that scores only 33% suddenly becomes more attractive if you can have full sovereign control over it. Not just Sweden, France's Dassault Aviation is now knocking on Canada's door with its Rafale fighter jet. The Rafale is not only battle-proven, it is much closer to the F-35 in capability, and most importantly, French systems do not require American approval to operate. However, one major challenge with the Rafale is interoperability. Since it is not an American platform, integrating it into NORAD's infrastructure could be difficult and expensive. But under Trump's leadership, Canada has become so frustrated that it may be willing to accept that challenge. Pentagon's worst fear: a mixed fleet. What the Pentagon fears most right now is Canada's emerging mixed fleet plan. Canada might purchase 16 to 30 F-35s for highly classified top-tier missions, and the remaining 50 to 70 aircraft could be Gripens or Rafales, built in Montreal and used for routine airspace patrols. This would mean the backbone of the Royal Canadian Air Force would no longer be under U.S. control. This is not merely a lost contract, it would mark the end of unquestioned American dominance in North American air power. Saab is not just selling an aircraft, they are selling ownership. They have promised that the final assembly of the Gripen jets will take place in Montreal or another Canadian city. This means thousands of high-skilled aerospace jobs and a complete transfer of critical technologies. The American F-35, on the other hand, is trapped inside a highly restrictive ecosystem. Through its ALIS, Autonomic Logistics Information System, every mission plan and software update remains under direct U.S. control. In simple terms, if Washington doesn't approve, you cannot even fly the aircraft you purchased. The Gripen, however, is engineered so that any country can operate and update it independently. In today's unstable geopolitical climate, this kind of strategic autonomy has become more valuable to Canada than raw battlefield performance. A long-term nightmare for the Pentagon. For the Pentagon, this is not just a financial loss, it is a strategic nightmare. The entire economics of the F-35 program depends on scale. If a major buyer like Canada reduces its order, the production cost of each aircraft increases. But the bigger fear is a chain reaction. If allies like Japan, South Korea, or Australia see Canada successfully reducing its dependency on American defense systems, they might follow the same path. Washington is terrified that 7 decades of unbroken North American defense unity may now be starting to crack. Canada stands at a historic crossroads. As December 2025 arrives, Canada finds itself at a pivotal moment in history. On one side lies the allure of the world's most advanced technology. On the other stands the urge to protect national dignity and sovereignty. Prime Minister Mark Carney's review is no longer just about a fighter jet contract. It is a struggle to determine Canada's strategic position for the next 50 years. Will Canada remain merely an extension of the United States, or will it stand tall as an independent power on the global stage? The answer was expected in September, but December is ending and Ottawa remains silent. And this silence speaks volumes. A new chapter of history is being written behind the scenes. The Pentagon keeps repeating one message: Russian activity in the Arctic is rising. In 2025 alone, Russian aircraft approached Canadian airspace at least 50 times. Washington insists that only the F-35 stealth technology can counter China and Russia's advanced fighter jets. That claim is true, but the Pentagon is missing the real point. Canada is not questioning whether it needs a modern fighter jet. Canada is asking, can we depend on a supplier who does not respect us, a supplier who creates uncertainty and instability at every step? Canada now stands before 3 possible paths. 1. Full F-35 contract. This is what the Pentagon wants. Despite political tension, Canada acknowledges the F-35 is technically unmatched. Trump's chaos may be temporary, but defense planning is long-term. 2. Mixed fleet, most likely option. About 30 F-35s for high-end missions and 50 to 60 Gripens built in Montreal. This preserves ties with the US while protecting Canadian sovereignty. Most analysts believe Canada will choose this route. 3. Full European turn, the Pentagon's nightmare. Cancel the F-35 entirely and buy all 88 aircraft from Saab, Gripen, or Dassault, Rafale. This would be a complete strategic break from America's defense orbit. Unthinkable a year ago, now it is a serious option on the table. This battle is not just about fighter jets, it is a powerful example of what happens when you treat your allies as subordinates. For decades, American leadership was built on respect and reliability. Trump's America First doctrine has shaken that foundation. Japan, South Korea, and Australia are watching Canada very closely. If Canada proves it can reduce defense dependence on the US and still stay secure, then the Pentagon's global dominance could change forever. The $19 billion contract the Pentagon once considered guaranteed is now on life support. So the question stands, is sovereignty truly more valuable than technical superiority? If you were in Canada's place, what would you choose, F-35 or Gripen? Share your reasoning in the comments. If you enjoyed today's deep analysis, don't forget to like and share. Subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next big shift in global politics. Thank you.